All right, everybody, continue where we last left off. We've done all of the basic geometry of the model. So now we're going to go ahead and start jumping in here and taking care of some of the fine details. And what I mean jumping in is actually I'm going to be jumping around a little bit here, a little bit there. I'm not going to focus too much on one particular part of the ship because at this point in time, I'm assuming um, really what I'm doing is going through my usual workflow. And so at this point in time, I usually don't know what all I'm going to be doing in modeling and what all I'm going to be doing in textures. I'm hoping that this ship will eventually become a full-fledged, or not full-fledged, but a high poly model, so to say. So I'm going to assume that I'm going to try to have as much details modeled as possible. But until then, I'm just going to go ahead. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and continue on this model. In the last episode, we just finished doing all of the basic geometry of the mesh. Now we're going to go start working into this and start adding in details. Now, rather than me trying to work on one part of the ship and get it completely modeled at a time, such as like do the nacelles until they're completely finished, then move on to the next part of the ship, I like to jump around. I'm following my basic workflow or my usual workflow to where at this point in time, I still don't know what all is going to be done modeling and what's all going to be done in textures. And even though I've already decided this is going to be a high poly model and I'm going to do as much as I can in textures, I'm sorry, in the mesh itself, I'm still going to be approaching y'all and showing y'all my usual workflow. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And the first part I'm going to be working on is the nacelles, adding in some details. My first part is that I'm going to be adding in is going to be this little area here, which let me see if I can find a better image of it. Okay, here we go. This little area right here. I don't know what it's called. Said I apologize. I don't really, not too familiar with the lingo, so to say. So we're going to go ahead and go on that. And I'm also debating of about whether if I want to try to go ahead and apply the subdivision surface modifier now, and then you kind of have to kind of outweigh the options because I can go ahead and apply that modifier in right now and it'll give me a lot more edge loops to add in. But if I add too many edge loops, it's going to start getting away from me. And if I go ahead and start trying to model in a lot of these basic details in now, when I apply that subdivision surface modifier, there's going to be a lot of wonky little geometry that I'm going to have to kind of go in and clean up. Let's go ahead and there's arguments for both sides. We could do one way or the other. I really don't know. I'm going to go ahead and just continue modeling in basic geometry right now. And we'll go ahead and clean up a bunch of stuff later. Now, it looks like that the edge loops here and here are almost perfect to where I can go ahead and extrude those lines. But just to be on the safe, I'm just going to go ahead and apply two additional edge loops right there and there to get me a little bit closer to where I want to extrude these at. Let's go ahead and we do it on that side. Oh, okay, went ahead and did on both sides. That's not mirrored. That's interesting. So, we'll fix all that up later. So now, let's go ahead and go into the, okay, no, we can still work on the right. So I'm going to have to add in an edge loop. Actually, no, we're pretty close on that as well. It looks here that it's kind of angular, but from the pictures that I'm seeing, it looks like it's pretty much almost straight up and down itself. No, it might be at a slight angle. Let's go ahead and go with the reference image and put these onto a, whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. Once again, my little fat fingers are getting everywhere. Let's go ahead and kind of move some of this geometry out just a little bit. No, I don't want that. actually, let's go ahead. All of this. Like I'm going to have to move it back for that little top piece. Is that piece in the actual model? Let me look. Once again, I'm going through references from the actual studio model. Yeah, okay, those little details are on there. We can apply that. And that's no, actually it goes right to back there, so that's no biggie. And let's go ahead and move these right to there. There we go. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and select. Oh, I didn't move that other. Darn it. Hold up. I want to try to keep the symmetry going, so I want to make sure that seeing only visible faces is disabled. Let's go ahead and fix that. Big deal. So we select that, we select that. There we go. That's close enough. And here, if I want to make sure that that's a straight line, one little trick that you can do is you can go ahead and select that vertice, and press F. And what that will do is that'll give you a temporary line, as you can see right there. And that kind of help you check to see whether or not if you are indeed straight, which we're not straight completely. So let's go ahead and select those two vertices again and move them back into play, and then just go back in and there we go, and delete that edge. There we go. And so that should be good. All right, let's go ahead and do these one at a time. Go into a face select. Let's go back to our right. And we're going to need to select here, here, and all of these faces here. So I can just go click there, hold down my control, and it'll help select all of those. Now let's go ahead and go on to the, actually, you know what we could do? Nah, we're not going to do that. All right, let's go into the front mode. And let's extrude these out just a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and 0.5. How does that look? No, that might be a bit too much. Okay, so we're going to do E. And on the numpad, let's do 0.25. How does that look? Does it look like it's jutted out enough? Actually, what I'm going to need to do here is scale these along the SX0, because that area needs to be scaled out a bit, or they need to be, it's almost flat. Okay. Front. Okay, that's actually pretty close. Let's go ahead and GX.1. Actually, GX point, let's see, 2. Okay, GX.2 looks like that might be working. So now let's go ahead and select everything on the other side. Okay. So we should be getting in, oops, from here, 1, all the way to there, 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 and we just repeat the other side. So let's go back to the front again, and I'm going to extrude. Actually, let me go ahead and, I already extrude? Yes, I did. Okay, we're going to do extrude 0.4, and then scale Z0, and that should extrude that out right where we want it. So let's go look back into the model. There we go, starting to add in those little details. Let me see, what would be the next little detail that I want to add? Let me see. Tell you what, let's go ahead and kind of smooth. Actually, you know what? Since we got that done, let's go ahead and work on, still on the nacelles, these little vents right here. Let me look at a couple additional photographs to see, does those go all the way around? No, they don't. Okay. Let's go ahead and work on this. We'll go back into edit mode, and hopefully might have faces that are already set up for us, but we don't. But we can either do a Control R and add in additional loops into the model, such as this. And this is one of those things that could be fixed if we go ahead and do a subdivision surface modifier. Let's go ahead and do that, because I think if we add in more faces, it's actually going to help improve the subdivision surface modifier when we apply it. So we got that, and did it add it to the other side? Yes, it did. Let's go back into our right, and what we're going to do is select all of these faces. I'm going to go ahead and deselect the limit selection to visible, the top portion, and we're going to select all of those. And what I'm going to do is first, it looks like to me that these would be kind of vents or more of a heat sink. I think this ship has a lot of heat sinks and vents and stuff on it, with it being kind of an older class model. Okay, no. I thought originally it might probably extrude in, but no, actually this will extrude out a bit. So let's go ahead and press E to extrude, and let's try 0.15. Okay, no, 0.15 seems like that would work out. Now that should have extruded it in all directions. No, it didn't. So let's go ahead and do a scale Z 0.1. Whoops. Oh, okay. Scale Z 1.1. Okay, now that's too much. Scale X, not Z. Point. Scale X 1.01. 02. 02. There we go. That looks better. To scale for 02. Now, let's go ahead and kind of clean up these vertices and these vertices, and let's scale them or move them down. Pressing GZ to make that flat, because I think that would look better if it's flat. And let's go ahead and scale those again to 1.01. Oops. Yeah, okay. Scale. Okay. Let's just go ahead and move those then. GZ 1. Whoops. GX 0.01. 0.05. There we go. So we'll just move those along GX negative 0.05. GX whoops, GX negative 1, nope, I pressed GZ negative 1, GX negative nope, 0.05, there we go. And for the rest of these, I could just select them and press GG to move them twice, just to get them to where they can kind of balance out just a little bit. But we don't have to mess with that too much. Okay, take a look at it. There we go. Looks pretty good. Now for the next part, this part looks like that they'll go in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of those again. Let's make sure that we only view visible faces. Select all of these again. Let's do an extrude and scale. So we do a GZ. Actually, let's do this instead. This might probably give us a better effect. Let's select all of these edges along the top, like that. And let's do a Control B. No, that's still not going to work. Okay. How would I normally do this? Let's try if we do individual faces. Let's see. Give me a minute. Okay, there might be a better way to do this, but here's just one way that I simply do it. Because what I want to do is I want to bring in, offset all of these faces inward. Normally on a flat face, I could just click on the face, press E, and then scale it down. And it scales it and kind of offsets everything. I think I think there is kind of an offset modifier somewhere. Just for the life of me, I can't remember where I seen it at. Inset Faces. Wait, maybe that's it. Let's try that out. Kind of learning something here. Ah, okay, there we go. All right. Okay. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and bring these in to kind of make an edge all along here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one face, just hold down Control, select the face on the opposite side, press Control F, and I want to do Inset Faces, or once again I press just I, and then I want to bring all those faces in till I get the border that I want all the way around, and it evenly puts that border in. Then from there, let's go ahead and extrude all of those inset just a little bit right there. And that should kind of give me that little bit of a look for me to go in and put in the grill details. So go, and we could do the same thing with everything on the side. Let's go ahead with these on the side, and it looks like that they're pretty much just, I could just pretty much do the same thing. Let's go ahead and work on both sides at the same time by making sure that uh, visible is unselected. So we should be selecting both sides. Now we can go ahead and let's go on to the front and extrude those out just the same amount that we did right there, which I think was it 0.9? Nope. Extrude 0.25. I think that was it. No, not 0.25. Extrude 0.2. 0.2. Does that sound about right? No, that's still not it. Extrude 0.15. There we go. That looks like that would be about it. So that extrudes both sides. And once again, since now that we still have those selected, press I. We can inset those faces until once again we get that border that we want. And then press E again to extrude them in just ever so slightly. So there we go. Starting to get a little bit of extra detail inside the ship. We're going to go back in a little bit later and add in all those little vent details. I might probably do that after we do the subdivision surface modifier, because once again that will give us a lot more edges that we can model in. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. Since we're working on the nacelles, let's go ahead and add in some of these additional details, and also talking about, should we model with or without the subdivision surface modifier applied. I'm going to go ahead and continue working on the nacelles before I go ahead and apply the subdivision surface modifier. And then with the with the saucer section, I'm going to apply that modifier first and then go in and put in the details so you can see kind of the differences. Let's go ahead and look on these little details here. Now these areas look like they're a bit more rounded. So let me so we'll probably try to get that look, and by adding in that subdivision surface modifier, it will pop out a lot more. So got to put in a lot of different extra edge loops, and when we apply in the subdivision surface modifier, we're going to get a lot more edge loops, but which is going to greatly increase our vertices, edges, faces, all of our little multipliers up here. It's going to greatly increase those, but we can always go in and kind of clean up the process or clean up the ship post post modeling. So all right, let's say looking at my reference images here again. Let me see what we got. Okay, trying to find a good image of that. Okay, yeah, they look like they're slightly rounded, so we'll just go ahead and kick in here, press Control R. Let's first start off with that. that. See, I'm getting different looks on that, so let's go ahead, try to match. Let's see what the top looks like. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and now that we have this, now what I could do is just control R and add in another thing like that, but what I'm going to do is select just that edge loop, press Control B and scale it out, and that's going to cause that to bevel just a little bit. Then I can extrude. Actually, let's do this instead. Go back to here, press Control B. When we bevel this, if we click on that mouse wheel, it'll give us, as you can see, more cuts in that we could play around with. So if I go right to there, then I select this ring of edges here. Okay, so now I just go ahead and select those additional edge loops, and we get to scale those in slightly. And we'll do the same thing here. Do a Control B, scale it up. Just do the same thing there. Select these. Actually, these, let me go ahead and move this up just a little bit, give me a little more room. Then we do Control B, get to where we want it. Go ahead, use our mouse wheel, add in some additional topography on the mesh, select just those inner ones, and scale that in just about the same. And we'll do the same thing here as well. Select, just rinse and repeat, Control, scale out, mouse wheel, up a couple of times just to increase the amount of bevel, and scale. There we go. Now what I could do here to go ahead with this, if I go ahead and press that Control B, I can bevel that even more to make that a lot more rounded if I wanted to. So, but we're going to go ahead and leave that on right there and see how that looks once we apply that Subdivision Surface Modifier. So we go into that, and it's ever so small of the detail. Looking pretty good. And what we could do here, just to kind of see what we'll be looking at once we apply the Subdivision Surface Modifier, is just go in and put it in. I mean, just, just temporarily. Now we won't apply it yet, but that will kind of see, and you can see that right there, it's kind of rounding off that edge a little bit more. We can go back in and sharpen up some edges and all that kind of stuff. But let's go ahead and move right along. Okay, sorry about that. Had to go ahead and apply or plug in my laptop. So we're going to go ahead and just temporarily disable all of that right now. We don't really need to see all that at this time, but we could just go ahead and just click on that just to see what it'll look like. And yeah, you can see where it's rounding off edges where we don't, but we can go in and fix a bunch of that. In fact, we can even do that right now. Like in this area here, if I select, find an edge loop that I want, like this one right here, press Control E and select that whole edge loop, then do a Shift E. It will, let me move over here where we're actually working. I can increase that edge. Look a little, we'll be able to see it better if we go here, like on this outside edge. So again, if I select, Control E, select that whole edge loop, and then do a Shift E, I can increase that seam and make it a lot sharper. There's other things that we can probably do as well. Whoops. What do I want? No, I don't want to do that. Let me go back into solid, where I could go in And as long as we got the topography work, I can just add in additional edges right there, and that will also sharpen it up a little bit. And there's differences, reasons about why you would want to do one or the other, which we'll look at a little bit later. Let's go ahead and try to move on. Let's go ahead and work on some of these areas here on where the pylon meets the nacelle. So if we look at it from the front, we could see that here it's solid, but here it breaks up a little bit. And looking at our reference images here, we see the same thing. And I'm going to guess that the real world explanation for all of these, that these are, and for the rest of the episode, just so we're on the same page, I'm going to explain these as heat sinks, where with this being a much older type of technology, it was necessary for the ship to have, oh, let's see. Okay, we'll need to, can I do that along? Okay, I'm going to have to flatten that out. Actually, what we could do is just go ahead and use the knife. So do a K. This should cut through the whole thing. Let's see. No, it didn't. But I see these as being more of heat sinks, to where, you know, you have this engine here, and this engine, there we go, that's what we need. So to go ahead and make sure that you cut through everything, is that there's a difference between if I just press K and go along here, so K there, go along there, we only cut along the visible face. But if I go ahead and press Shift K, then what that will give us would, it will cut through the entire mesh, as you can see right there. And that's what we're wanting to do, is to cut through that entire mesh. Now from here, what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and Control R to add in some additional edges here, like so, just to kind of plot that out. So there we go. I think that would work out great. Yeah, that'll work. That'll do it. And but anyways, yeah, these are heat sinks. So older technology, you know, especially, you know, you would have thicker cables running through the size of this pylon. I mean, your warp cable is probably almost touching the metal, and they probably generate a lot of heat. So they have these heat sinks, which makes connection points to the warp conduits that go up into the nacelles, and that helps dissipate the heat a lot more efficiently out into the cold space, to kind of help cool it down. So without these, your ship would, for the most part, pretty much blow up. Let's see, I went ahead. Yes, I did that. Now here, I will admit now, I think I might have did some things slightly out of order, but we'll see what we can probably do. So let's go ahead. I probably should have went ahead and continued this all the way up through here. Well, let's see what we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and select these edges here and delete. And we just want to delete the edges, not the vertices. And let's go ahead and do the same thing here. Select those two, delete, and delete those edges. We got additional edges there that we want to delete. There we go. And I want to delete all those edges. Let's see, right here as well. Oops. Okay. Well, not too bad, because we have these here, which we could probably extrude back. Let's go ahead and delete these as well. There we go. Go in the back and delete these as well. So just keep, oops, something happened. Delete edges. Now, once again, we want to make sure you delete the edges, not vertices, because if you delete vertices, you delete a lot more of the mesh. So just delete and delete edges. And let's go ahead and select these here. Delete edges, and 1, 2, delete edges. Just go around and just delete all of these. There we go. Now, besides it being completely hollow on the inside, we, for the most part, do have the, the heat sinks that we want. Now we can go in and select, whoops, select additional faces, 1, 2, and press F. Select that edge, press F, go all around. Okay, thought I saw something there. Let's go on the other side, do the same thing. 1, oops, 2, F, select there, and just go all around and just keep doing this edge. But yeah, I think that's kind of my own personal real world explanation for what these little details are that you see all along the pylons are heat sinks. Now, why you see similar examples of these on the hull of the ship as well, uh, maybe they're heat sinks as well because of the, I mean, you have to probably think one thing that, and I'm kind of going on my little personal rant, is that one thing that I always thought that was kind of funny with Enterprise was is that it's supposed to be the early. Actually, we can do. You know what? Oh, tell you what. Let me do this. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. With Enterprise, it was supposed to be, the early, warp. I did exactly what I said I wasn't supposed to do. The early warp technology, and as we all see within technology, with anything, you know, usually the more primitive it is, you see, it tends to be bigger. You have bigger machines, you know, older tech, it tends to symbolize older technology, and newer machines, and the technology tends to get a little smaller. I mean, especially when it comes to, I mean, like look at the computer, the very first computer. I mean, how big that was compared to what computers we have right now, so on and so forth. But you see the NX-01, and it has a very small engine. I mean, very, very small. I mean, in the Constitution class, and even, I mean, the Enterprise D, I mean, you see about how big engineering is and how big their warp core is and stuff for that for that huge ship. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now maybe it's there because it's only a warp 5 engine. There may be some stuff going on. Okay, now here I'm going to have to finesse some things. Let me see if I can do this. Control, whoops. No, all I want is on this. There we go. I'm going to add in some extra edge loops along here. You'll see what I'm doing here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and go on this other side and do the same thing. Maybe it's because it's a Warp 5 engine, it's similar to, oops, no, I don't want that. Maybe, just maybe, it's similar to what we see like on our, darn it, come on. Like on car engines, you know, you have a little 4-banger cylinder engine, and it's much smaller than let's say like a V8 or something. And I mean, maybe that might be a good real world explanation for it, but to me, it would seem like that a ship like this, the engineering would be absolutely huge. I mean, almost taking up a good, like I said, here for me, this would seem like this would almost be complete engineering here. You have your warp conduits that run into here, and a warp core, and you got your matter, antimatter tanks, and I mean all of this would just be completely engineering. But I think in Enterprise, engineering is like only a small little area, and I don't know if they give any explanation of where they keep their matter, antimatter containment or something. But it's just such a small area. But I mean, so maybe because of that, there might be heat sinks, but heat sinks on these. That's my opinion. But let's go ahead and kind of iron some of these out. So what I'm doing here is, well, we have these edge loops here, is I want to continue the edge loops all around this. I thought I put one on this side. Did I forget to do it? Maybe I did. Maybe I pushed Control Z and wasn't aware of it. But, so we go in like that. Let's see, do we do it on the other side? I think we did. Yeah, we did. So I just like that. Let's get it as close as we can. Go. And to do the rest of this, I might do this off, I might be cutting out, because it's pretty much just an example of rinse and repeat. So we select that vertice, those two vertices, Alt M. Let's make sure that we're selecting the correct vertex, because I want the vertice on this plane here, to meet with the vertice on this plane. So Alt M at last. Let's get that out of the way, and that should all be one good. Yep, let's do the same thing on this side. Make sure we select the vertice that's on this plane, then select the other vertice, Alt M at last. There we go. And just keep going around and repeating. Then you'll see what I'm going to do. It'll make sense here in just a minute. Go back and do this other side here. 1, 2, Alt M at last. There we go. Now we need to repeat the same results on the top. Okay, GG to move that along the edges. There we go. Let's go ahead, since we're in vertex mode, go ahead and do that. Actually, since we got this one side, I'll show you what we're going to do. Is that now I can select this vertex and this vertex, or this edge. Now I can select this edge and, okay, I got to do this side here as well. Okay, GG, that along, connect up to there. Let's get it as close as we can. I think that's good enough. And y'all, if y'all are deciding to go ahead and follow this at home, then y'all can take as much time as y'all want and make this a lot more perfect. I could go through and do a much better job on this, and let's get rid of everything else for right now. Yeah, see what we're doing here? And said y'all can go in and do a far better job than what I'm doing here. Because y'all are going to have more time. I'm trying to fit this all within, a set kind of, oops, within a set time period. Trying to keep this as short as possible. And so a lot of this is actually going to be quick and dirty. And this is definitely by far not going to be one of my best models, but it'll be the tutorial, at least, once again, just like the basics that y'all can apply at home. Oops. Nope. Oh, gotta do that other side. Can't forget about that now, can we? Let's see. Go. So, but short of it is, you'll have a lot more time that y'all can work on this to make it look a lot better. And take your time. Definitely make it better. Just use these as strictly just as a guideline. Your results may vary. So there, click there, F. Then we click there. Oops, let's do this side, FF. There, F. Now we can go ahead and do these additional sides. And it's a bit of a tight space to be working in, but I think we can get it. There we go. So that should get us right where we're wanting. Why is that not showing me the... Suddenly I think I just lost my picture for some reason. I'm not in perspective, am I? No, it's not that. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump out just real quick and do this top portion here, because it's just, once again, just a simple, rinse and repeat process. And I'll be back in a jiffy.